Now we want to maximize the total amount of fertilizer. Again, this just really comes from project 4, and in that we looked at the feasibility of making, say, 50 pounds or 100 pounds or 150 pounds, and these equations modeled that question because X was the number of pounds of tomato fertilizer, Y was the number of pounds of sweet corn fertilizer, and so if we add those two amounts together, we get the total number of pounds. And so the total number of pounds is set to be 50, or the total number of pounds is set to be 100, or the total number of pounds is set to be 150. And we were just asking, could we make that? Well, now we want to ask the question, what's the most we could make? And so let's add a note to label our stuff. Maximize total fertilizer. I can just overwrite that note, I guess. Maximize total fertilizer. And again, if I needed to add a new note, I could always go here to the plus and say add a note, and there's a new note, but I don't need it. So we have that. I'm going to get rid of this stuff down here. And so maximize total fertilizer, and this says, okay, instead of saying exactly how much it is, let's make it Z. And the nice thing about Desmos is if I just call it Z, it says, oh, do you want to add a slider? And I say yes, and you see it gives me this amount. And if you look down here, I could move this up a little bit. So here's the line, x plus y equals 3.3, but then I move it down here, x plus y equals negative 6.5, x plus y equals 10. Okay, so I can just make Z whatever I want. Now, that's the total amount of fertilizer we can make, and well, I know I can make more than 10 pounds. We see that it does say I can make 10 because I'm inside the feasible region here with that line, as we talked about in module 4. So but it'd be better if I put this slider with bounds that might have made a little more sense. So I can just click on these things. I can go back over here. I could make this 10 or something, but 0, that's the least I could make is 0. And I don't know if 300 is good enough, but I can always change it if it's not. So there we go. And then if I just click anywhere else, click up here or whatever, it gives me that slider. And you see I can just move that line around by grabbing that and doing what I want there with it. And so I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and move this over where I can see it, and go back here and see what this says to do. So I've added that slider, made it between 0 and 300, and it says don't worry about the step size. See, you can, if I click on one of these, I can also give it a step size, and so for instance, suppose I said 50, then when I slide it, notice it's it's 0, 50, 100. It's never anything but those. Well, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to get rid of that step size and click back out of here. Okay, so I see that like 268, that line here, is outside my feasible region, so I can't make 268 pounds. Okay, and I think it in the direction says go to 160. Okay, so there's 160. I can make 160 again if I click on that x plus y equals z. It highlights it, and it also shows me where things intersect. And so I can see by clicking on there that I could make a little over 42 pounds of tomato fertilizer and 114 pounds of sweet corn fertilizer, and I would still be in this feasible region because it's right at the edge. And I could also click down here and see different amounts I could make just by tracing. And in every case, though, they add up to 157 pounds. Let me find 100 here. There's, whoops, close. Pretty close. A little over. But notice 100.5 pounds and then 56.5. So I'm just having a little manual dexterity trouble. There we go, 157. See, so they always add up to 157 pounds as long as I'm on that line. And this said go to 160. Now, if you have trouble like I was having with some manual dexterity, you can always go up here and type in 160. And so that said to go to 160. Look at the gray dots. That's what we did. And now, so what I want to do is increase Z until this line is just barely in the feasible region, because that's when I can make the most, right? I can, whoops, I need to click out of it there. I can grab it. See, I could make 160, but I can make 172 and still be feasible. I can make 206 and still be in that feasible green area. I can still make 244, and I can even make 247. It looks like, oh, I cannot make 250 because I'm out of the feasible region. So it looks like I'm going to be right in here somewhere. So I can pull this over and zoom in a bit to see what I'm doing better, and pull that in, and it looks like at 247 I'm about right there. Now notice as I zoom in, you see it's actually, it's hitting this line up here and this line down here. One says 170.5 and 76.5, another 170.67 and 76.33. Both of those work, and they both add up to 247. Now, could I do better? Well, it looks like I could do a little better. Does 248 work? Let me just type in a 248. Oh, no, it's out here. Doesn't work. So 247 works. Now, actually, though, I can make it a little bigger. So, like, let's try 247.1 is too big. So I could do 0.5. And actually that looks like it's pretty good. And again, I still see 2 dots, so I'm slightly inside. I could make it just a little bit bigger. Well, how much bigger? Well, one way to handle that is just kind of move this out of the way. Oops. Moves very fast here because I'm zoomed in so far. I was down around, what, 247? There's 247. So I'm right down in there. What is this point? Well, I just need to kind of click these up here until, there we go. That blue line or the red line up there. And I can find that point. That point is 170.588 and 76.471. Well, how much is that? Because it looks, if I set Z equal to whatever that adds up to, I would go right through there, and that would be the biggest thing I could make. So now this is going to disappear when I click over here, so I'm going to try to remember 170.588, 170.588 plus and I'll click there again. 170.588 and 76.471. 76.471, and it makes 247.059. So 247.059. And there we go. And if I click there, it looks like there's just that single dot. And I get this. And so that's actually the most I could possibly make. Now, if I'm going to report this to somebody, probably I'm just going to report 247 and say, well, that's really close. You know, and I could show them with a picture how close it is to being all the way to the edge of the feasible region. But that's a good answer. So either one, 247.059 or 247, I could argue either one is fine. And then, you know, if I go with the 247, I need to be able to go back here and, you know, click on one of these dots to tell you how much of each fertilizer that is. Okay, and there I've maximized it. That's the most fertilizer I could get. So we'll call that one done.